Next item is we have the fall foliage parking and travel update by Mr. A.J. Jordan, LANTA Manager of Planning and Scheduling.
AJ, Angelia, we have Angelia Beck, our parking supervisor with us as well.
Nice. Good morning.
Morning,
AJ. So we were just asked to come here to provide just a brief update of how it went this summer, but it's going to be a very quick recap, and I'm happy to answer any questions on top of that. So for everyone who isn't familiar, my name is AJ Jordan. I'm the Director of Planning and Scheduling for LANTA, and we also oversee carbon transit. I'm here with Angelia. Introduction.
I'm the parking director for Carbon County.
So for a little background here, for anyone not aware, this summer we tried some new transit services on the beach bus and fall foliage service. And the beach bus ran over the summer months with serving Mock Chunk Lake from Nescahoning, Summit Hill, and Lansford. The fall foliage shuttle ran for 4 weekends in October to serve the Fall Foliage Festival in Jimthorpe and help out with parking concerns there. So on the screen here, we just want to go over how that service went. They're very different services, so you see some different numbers here. The beach bus, we operated for 10 weekends throughout the summer, a total of 65 passengers. So modest ridership throughout the summer, but it did provide some nice access to the beach. We heard some really great stories about some seniors, especially in the Lansford mid-rise, getting access to the beach for the first time, which was really exciting. And ultimately, it came out to a total cost of $2,846 for all those passengers. That service was never intended to form a profit. It was put out in conjunction with fall foliage service and the parking that goes along with it, and we'll discuss those numbers in a second. The fall foliage service cost quite a bit more, over 300 times, because we ran service every 10 minutes all weekend, so it was about $12,000 in cost, but we did receive 2,727 riders on those 4 weekends in October. And for reference, in all of last year, we had 4,000 riders for our entire 4,705 riders for all of Carbon County and service. So in 1 month, we did almost half of what we normally do in a year, which is really exciting. And in a typical month, we average about 350 riders. So for 2,700 riders in October, that is significantly more ridership than we've ever seen in Carbon County, and we were really excited about that. So with that ridership, we did a fare recovery of $3 per ride. So you got a fare recovery of $8,000, and the total service invoice for that was $3,980. So even though we were running, the upfront cost was over 300%, it was really only a modest final bill increase of 38%, for the invoice total for the entire summer being $6,826. We can come back to the slide if we'd like, but if I can move on to the parking numbers, which go along with that. You'll see these numbers again on Angelia's parking slides.
Yeah, so after the expenses, well, with the bus service, the labor for the park rangers, portalets, wristbands that we purchased for everybody to wear when they were riding the buses, and paying for the beach bus service, the net revenue for the Mock Chunk Lake Reserve parking was $6,296.38, which was great because the first 2 weekends of the fall foliage were actually rained out, and the program still far exceeded all of our expectations. And actually the very last day of the festival, we had a significant decrease in reserved parking, and it still wound up exceeding our expectations. The feedback from guests at the end of all of their rides when they came back to Mock Chunk Lake Park was all positive. It truly saved a lot of people the hassle of having to look for a parking spot when they were traveling through town. It took cars out of the queue circling around town trying to find a spot, which was great. I've actually had people call my office looking to see if we were going to do this program for any other festivals and like Winterfest and everything like that, which was great. And coordination for this program was absolutely on point. We coordinated with AJ from LANTA. We coordinated with Pocono Mountain Visitors Bureau. We set up a QR code for people to be able to scan and look this up. It was just absolutely great. I think that we should continue this in the future. It was a great program. it was not only beneficial for LANTA and the county, but it was beneficial for all the tourists and all the locals as well.
Yeah, and if we want to go over a couple lessons learned, because it wasn't perfect, it was the first year. We did run into a little bit of bus bunching issues, which is where, you know, we had 3 buses running in a circle every 10 minutes. And when they bunch up, when there's traffic issues in Jim Thorpe, we did encounter some longer wait times, you know, upwards of 20 minutes, which is a little long when you're waiting to get into Jim Thorpe. We are able to rectify that both with GPS tracking on buses, which are now on buses. We actually have real time on both of our buses on street now, and we'll have those for again next year if we run the service. And then we also experienced issues on Hill Road, which we need to have some additional coordination on with parkers kind of blocking the street and backing up some of our buses. So there was very active assistance with that, as far as I'm aware, within the borough, from the village center, I believe by the police.
Yeah, I was coordinating with Jim Thorpe Police Department. As soon as anybody would park where the buses were parking, they would let me know. I would let Jim Thorpe Police know, and we'd have them cleared by either a tow truck or just letting people know that they had to move. And actually, the last weekend, we were able to block off Packer Hill, or not Packer Hill, Hill Road. And it was only the buses and the shuttle services coming down that hill, which made things a lot better.
So I think that was our biggest lesson learned that we can take away and hopefully improve for next year. Additionally, we worked on staging up at Mock Chunk Lake. We originally had a staging area across from the parking area. We ended up moving it into the parking area. That helped with any sort of weather related incidents. There were some mud issues the first day. And it also just helped people queue up close to their cars and made it flow much better. So all around, I appreciate everyone involved because we went in with a lot of coordination and we learned a lot on the weekends of. And I agree with Angelia. I think it was a success, but we're happy to answer any questions on it.
AJ, does the ridership that you had, the combined ridership, does it impact in any way future funding for carbon transit and well, carbon transit specifically?
Absolutely. So one of the benefits of being a public transit service is we receive funding through formula programs, and it comes through PennDOT at the state level. Basically, every year they take ridership for all the agencies and then funding for statewide and divided by ridership. So any increase in ridership increases the share of the statewide funding that is coming back to the county. So seeing the numbers this year already, that number changes every year. It's not like, you know, you increase by 300%, you'll get an increase in 300% funding next year. But the pot of the share of the total statewide funds will increase for Carbon County next year because of this service, which is pretty exciting news. The more ridership we have, the more statewide dollars coming into the county we have.
And more statewide dollars results in what? I mean, what's the impact for, you know, John Q. Public? You
Sure.
know,
well, you know, statewide dollars come into the carbon transit fund, which can help us with increased service hours on street if we would like to pursue that. Just kind of increased operations in the county, and that is for the system as a whole. So what we're discussing right now is CT Bus, which is our fixed route service in the county. But those funds come in and also help us with the CT Shared Ride, the paratransit service, and their CT Flex service as well. So it really helps add just some additional funding to kind of even out the service and increase wherever we need to see increases.
right?
I think the other question is, what other, since this is successful, what other events or holidays should we really be looking at? 4th of July, Labor Day, when we have the overflowing problem, special events, the Winter Festival that they had, I think 2 years ago, was so overwhelming with the trains, etc. So what other events should we look at adding to transportation for the weekends or to the program?
I think like 4th of July, like big holidays like that, especially after Memorial Day. After Memorial Day, it starts to pick up, especially on Saturdays. Saturdays are probably the worst. I definitely think 4th of July, Labor Day weekends. And as it gets closer to fall foliage, you might even maybe push it a couple weekends before fall foliage. Because a lot of people try to beat the traffic of fall foliage by coming a little bit earlier. and it winds up overwhelming the town.
I would just bear in mind that, you know, during the 101 days of summer, Mock Chunk Lake Park becomes unavailable for the shuttle service. Doesn't mean you couldn't do it from another location. You know, school's out for summer, right? You have parking lots, things like that. So just being creative about it.
Yes, absolutely. I do just kind of recognize that I think this opens up just a kind of a new model for the public transit service in the county in terms of being you know, tourist and public oriented for parking shuttles and helping with our parking management. That auxiliary parking lot doesn't necessarily have to be the lake. We can talk about other locations as well. And just kind of work with those figures. So I would advocate, you know, just in general, looking at weekend service. We found it to be very successful this summer for both different types of service. And I know we received just quite a few requests from people in the city wanting to come up to Jim Thorpe and often don't because of parking restrictions here. So I think we can look at additional services north-south through the county as well, and better utilizing those LANTA resources to get people into the county without impacting the parking issues. So I'm open to discussions. I can't speak to which weekends work best.
Well, I think look forward to further discussions, and hopefully we can come up with other alternative locations other than the park maybe, and pick out which events that draw the most and which we'd like to try first. Add a couple a year maybe, but.
I agree.
And I do have a question, not on this particular subject, but when we had the meeting a couple of weeks ago, did you get any additional calls from people that were looking for other areas to be picked up? Remember, you were looking for people to call, and also, are you looking into it? I think, I don't know, if Chris sent an email about advertising on the buses to offset the calls. I think that was one of the things that we were looking at, actually, when we handed it over. Like, that would be a good thing.
Yes, absolutely. So for a little context on that first question, our fixed route service was a flag stop service where you could wave the bus down, and we're shifting it to a bus stop only service. That was partly because we've got the new apps in real time for the buses. So we had a public meeting asking where people would like their bus stops. We did receive 3 requests for new bus stops, and we added those into the data. So those are on street. Now they're in the data, people are being picked up, and they will have bus stop signs before the official change on January 29th. So we did receive some good feedback.
And I just want to focus a little bit more on that, because people complain, well, they have an issue that a bus doesn't stop by them. But if you would have an area, a street that might have 3 people that request to stop there, that could be an additional bus stop.
Yes,
You
absolutely.
know, and that's where I think it is, like, people have to get on the website and say, okay, this is where I want to be at, or where I want to be picked up. And then that could help the busing problem, you know, instead of just sitting there, well, I can't get picked up on Delaware Avenue at a certain place in Palmer, but if there's 3 right there, that could be an additional bus stop.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one area where we really appreciate this partnership and this new arrangement. If anybody reaches out to LANTA, those come back to the requests. And we are open to bus stops pretty much everywhere as long as we're able to meet ADA requirements. So we do work and go out and assess the stops to make sure it's safe to stop there before we put an official stop. But yes, the more the merrier.
Yeah.
And then your second question.
On the advertising.
Oh, advertising. Yes, we did reach out to our contractor, Gateway Advertising, and Fast Signs, who's our contractor for bus wraps, to see where the advertising opportunities are. We're awaiting a response from both of those parties. Unfortunately, Fast Signs had a bit of a tragedy in the last week, so they're held up a little bit, but we are pursuing a response on that.
Yeah, any more questions by the board, from the board? If not, I'll open it up to the press for now. I know we have 1-0. Okay, so thank you very much for coming in, AJ,
Yeah,
Angelia.
and I would just like to extend a thank you to the entire commission for funding this. You know, it's a risk, and I'm really happy. Thank you so much.